Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spaceless Realms Podcast. Today, I'm here with Kalki, and today we will be speaking about a very heavy topic, I feel like, because it involves humanity's survival of how we thrive in this world and how we exist in this world. So, we will be diving into all different parts of how civilization is built and how it's been maintained over the years, sort of spanning back of the past 300 years and how things have transformed into this industrial age that we are living in now and that we rely on so heavy for our survival and just for the necessities that help us get along in life, and also what the future may look like and how the future may transition into different ages that contain different things that can offer humanity, if you know what I'm getting at. But yeah, this is just a brainstorming session. I'm here with Kalki. Welcome, bro. Welcome.
Yo, always, it's always an absolute pleasure and an honor to be here. I keep saying that, but it's actually true. There's nothing more true than that. And I think that's a really good time span to put it at 300 years because realistically, it's about that long since it's been that long since the beginnings of industrialization. And at the beginning of industrialization, the idea was to make things more efficient, which is not a good thing. Capitalism and industrialization has never been a good thing. It's always been from the Western, theocratic, plutocratic, capitalistic perspective. But the interesting thing is that it could have gone another way. If Tesla, for example, Nikola Tesla had had his way and Westinghouse had won instead of General Electric, and Nikola Tesla's, infinite energy principle had been applied to what we already had for industrialization principles, then we would have a Venus project grid. We'd have a harmony of chakra frequency resonance. We'd have electricity that's entirely free and that's unlimited. It would be at, vibrational frequencies and chakric frequencies and at Hertzian frequencies that are actually compatible with the body to enhance us, to make our life better. Technology would not have been enslaved. It would have been an enhancement of who we are. Our phones would actually help us to be, they wouldn't be slave labor. There wouldn't be components that are mined in from other places that are removed from the earth. We'd be recycling, upcycling, reusing, repurposing. A lot of Tesla generators, for example, are built from recycled parts, even from washers and from other electronics. So if we had repurposed the beginnings of what industrialization was, we are transitioning towards that. So for people that think this is kind of a bleak picture of reality, we have to realize that the New World Order, capitalism, the ideas of what we think this progress of technology or of civilization is crumbling right now. So there is good news that's embedded within that. But if we look at those 300 years and what we've done to the planet in the past 100 years, we've triggered the largest mass extinction in 65 million years in history. And the major reason for that is not only industrialization and pollution, but the number one source of pollution, twice as much as, as some people know, twice as much as all transportation combined on the face of the planet is from animal agriculture, which is really the greatest genocide in history.
Hmm. So what can, like, a person may feel helpless in all the things that can present themselves and how illusory money is and just how uh like foolproof the structure is of society. How does how does a person prepare themselves for the best, you know? Like, of course you can go live off grid and stuff like that. You have to save up a lot of money and do that whole process, but what can someone just do like right now? Just like
Well,
a
what's very interesting is, first of all, for example, one of my best friends right now actually just sold her condo in Montreal, in a big city that's very polluted, that has shitty quality water, that's a beautiful place to live in, but also that has polluted food, polluted water, low quality of living. She just sold her condo and made a profit and was able to buy a house outside of there in nature that's bigger, that's more beautiful, that's a house with a little acreage by a river that has river access for cheaper than what she sold her condo for. So a lot of people that might say, well, I'm living in an apartment or something like that, I don't have that much money. What's very interesting is living off grid is way cheaper than living in the cities. So that's one thing that you can plan for in the longer run. But right now, what we can do is one thing. It goes down to supporting local, supporting sustainable and conscious, going vegan, not in a like, or being indigenous, living indigenously off the land. But if you are indigenous, otherwise, I would say the number one way to do that is being ITAL, really, which is like an ITAL vegan diet is actually like Rastafarians, like we've talked about. That's one way that you can minimize your carbon footprint, better your health. You can save money because if you're not buying prepackaged commercial vegan like McVegan or chicken nuggets that are vegan that are costing $7.99 for a little pack, at the end of the day, you can save a lot of money buying large amounts of potatoes, of lentils, of staple foods, of buckwheat, of ancient grains. And the more you clear your body, the more you recycle those particles in your body, those cells that are, making up who we are fundamentally, the more you're actually going to have a clear thinking access to what your future plan is going to be. But if you're living with shitty food, shitty water in your body, in shitty urban conditions, it might even start by relocating yourself in a different job or going to visit a relative and learning to work on a farm. And I don't mean like an animal agriculture farm that's raping and torturing animals, but I mean like a permaculture farm, say like a veganic farm, or going to a place where somebody is actually rewilding, or living off grid at a cottage with a friend for a while where you're going to visit some family or visit a friend that that has that, and then learning how to teach yourself how to rewild, how to forage, how to live in harmony with nature. That might be just a vacation at first, but then you learn the basic principles to do that. But a lot of people more and more are learning that you could have $5,000, $10,000, and even a fraction of that. You can even have $1,000 or $2,000 on a down payment on a $10,000 acre that you're buying, and the next thing you know, you have an acre. You can guerrilla garden an acre to actually feed up to 500 people. So an acre of land is huge. It's big. You can grow massive amounts of food on there. You can harvest wild food. You can grow plants. You can do all kinds of things. So it's actually a lot cheaper and a lot more sustainable to live that kind of a lifestyle than to live in a city where everything is overpriced and very low quality.
Hmm. Yeah, if you go look on Facebook, I'm sure if you look up like um local farms or something like that, like I'm sure you could find some like farms or gardens where you could like actually just volunteer your work and volunteer to help out.
You can. There's sanctuaries, there's farms, there's something called
Hmm.
WOOF, WWOOF, which is woofing is like living off
WWOF.
of. I know it sounds funny, but it's
Woof.
actually woofing is actually like you go live on a farm and you live there for free. You have free food, but you help to build the farm. So there's a lot of different places
That's
like that that
cool.
are actually veganic. Especially if you go to the island places like in the Gulf Islands. If you go to other places like you go
Hmm.
to like places like Oregon, like California, like Washington, or across the planet. Now,
Yep.
also something that some people don't know is that buying land overseas in a lot of places is way cheaper than buying in capitalistic countries. And as long as you're respecting those cultures, you know, they'll be happy that you're there and that you're doing something to help too.
Hmm. Yep. Hmm.
Say for example, here I'll give you an example. I had to flip a house in the hood in Ascana 25 years ago, 20 years ago, 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I had enough money that I got a little bit of an inheritance, and I saved up some money from hustling, where I actually was able to buy a house in the hood for $78,000. I renovated it with my mother and my grandmother, and and I was actually able to flip that house the next year and sell it for 130,000. Now with that 130,000, I bought my mother a house. I put a third down on a house on an acre of land that was already in a smaller town and in a beautiful place. And I was able to buy, a third of a house, and the rest of it she paid for her mortgage because obviously she was working at university, so she was teaching, she was paying off the mortgage. And then later on, I was able to actually unblock some RSPs to be able to purchase this land here. But in Montreal or in big cities, in New York, in Tokyo, in London, in Paris, you can't even buy a house these days for under $1 million or under $2 million or $3 million or even a condo. You're lucky these days if you can find something for $300,000 or $400,000 in a city, even in smaller cities. So why would you want a tiny little piece of land where you can barely even grow anything? You have this, like, artificial way of life, this artificial grass, pesticides, like pollution, everything. But this house 5 years ago, with 118 acres of land, with a beach, with river access, with and in another 168 acres of land that I also bought at the same time, I was able to buy both of those with $80,000. So that's insane. Now people would say, what do you get for $80,000? You barely even get a garage. You could barely even buy a garage in a big city for that price. So you could get $5,000. You could buy an acre of land in some place. If you have $5,000 or $10,000, you went to Thailand or Myanmar, or you go to South America or Africa. In some places, you could literally buy yourself probably like 10 or 15 acres of land with a little cabin and a lot of stuff. But you have to be willing to make that transition and that shift. You have to learn first and foremost how to be able to be sustainable off the land, to be able to do something like that. Otherwise, you're trapped in city living. And then you
Dude,
think you have to do a 9 to 5 corporate job or something.
bro, have you seen in Japan like how they live over there? Like those like small, like such like tiny spaces. Like everything's so close. Like the toilets right here, their beds right here. Dude, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah,
That's
Tokyo
just
living is crazy. Kyoto, Tokyo, like a lot of places, like you're right. Like the big cities, Mexico City, probably similar to like a lot of the big cities in the world. Like you can live. I mean, I was living out of my office out of 80 square feet for a while when I was doing my PhD. And I made it happen. Like I had like drawers underneath my sofa that turned into a queen size bed. And then I had my desk was also my music studio, and the corner of it was my recording booth. And then I had like a little closet in the corner, and I had all of my kitchen, my little oven was on top of the closet, and then my burner plate was on top of my mini fridge, and my mini fridge was right next to my office, and and then I had a burner plate and a blender on top of my mini fridge. And I had my fruits that were ripening up on my library. What did you find? No way. You found some lysergic acid.
yeah.
That's crazy. That's beautiful. Timothy Leary would be happy.
Yo,
Dr. Hoffer would be happy.
this is like completely changing up the topic, but what do you think of people who like Steve Jobs and stuff like that who do acid and who actually like recommend it to like
I
expand your
personally, I wouldn't, because it's partially modified. It's synthesized. But
yeah.
what some people don't know is that it's the ergot of rye. So it's synthesized from the ergot of rye. It was used by Dr. Hoffer, Dr. Timothy Leary in Harvard, Dr. Hoffer in Canada, and Dr. Linus Pauling did research to actually cure mental health problems with that. I would rather recommend something like sassafras or mushrooms if somebody is going to use in microdoses.
Yeah.
But personally, me, I'm good on that these days. I'm very hypersensitive. I prefer, you give me a little bit of some natural cess or a little bit of hash, a little bit of marijuana once in a blue moon, I'll be really happy. But I don't condemn it at all. I think it's wonderful if people need psychedelics and hallucinogenics to actually enhance their brain activity. For me personally, my brain is already like it's on mushrooms and on acid without even needing to take it.
Yeah,
So
bro.
I don't increase that awareness because I'm already having visions. I'm already having hyper natural overclocking brain awareness, but or supernatural, I should say. But it's beautiful. I think it's wonderful that we have those means to accelerate consciousness if we need them. I mean, look at big pharma, big harm, which is harming and destroying. Pharmakine in Greek actually comes from poisoners. Like those are professional poisoners. They're poisoning people with neo-Nazi made, like I said, look up Blitz, drugs in the Third Reich. The Nazis invented big pharma. So that's another thing that's tied into animal ag. And animal ag is also tied into poisoning and antibiotics and using pharmas on animals that are so sick that they have to poison them to make them even sicker, to make them appear healthy. And then they have to use chemicals that are also invented by Nazis to bleach that, which goes into a little segue that I have to say. And if Edna is watching this, I would like to dedicate this to her, because I have mad respect for anti-fascists, anti-speciesists, for people that are intersectional activists on the face of the planet. Intersectionality, interconnectedness is really what it comes down to. because everything is interconnected. Everything is related. We're all connected for better or worse. So at the end of the day, we have to be able to make things work between people that we have those subjects in common with. And if we don't, we have to find a way to bind, either get rid of an evil opposition like fascists. Like some people say, well, you have to let everyone live. No, I think it should be legal to punch a Nazi in the face. I think it should be legal to get rid of fascism and capitalism. And it is technically. Indigenously, it's very legal. Capitalistically, they don't want you to do that.
Hmm.
And that goes down to what we were going to talk about originally in the podcast, which I think is still tied in exactly to what we're saying, is the idea that if you think back, GMOs didn't used to exist. It's only very recent. I think it's since the 1940s or 50s or something, since Monsanto and all this stuff. Before that, everything was organic. You didn't need to label it organic. The cars in the 1940s and 50s and 60s and even 70s were built to last. I have a Maytag, washer and dryer here, not to promote that, but those things don't break. They're from the 1970s and they're still working great. Nowadays everything is made to break. Everything is made from slave labor, and that's another thing. Please be careful what your carbon footprint is also, but the slave labor, make sure that people out there, make sure that you know what you're buying, where it's coming from, the source of it. Buy local, buy sustainable, buy organic, but don't just buy labels certified organic. You're better off buying from a farmer that doesn't have the organic certification but that is natural personally, than to buy from somebody else that is saying certified USDA organic, but then that means there's a certain amount of pesticides that will be allowed to be put in there anyways. And grow your own food at the end of the day if you can. Start with herbs and little garden and everything. Do simple if you need to in the beginning, and learn those. Once you have that ability to fix, to renovate, to do your own renovations, your own reparations, you don't need to call the plumber. You don't need to call the fix it man. You don't need to call a repair guy or another person. You don't need to ask somebody to do the renovations. You might have some friends come over and help you do that instead. And then the more you learn how to be self-sustainable, the more you actually realize that society is embedding us to be these slaves. They're embedding us within a society that's completely parasitic and destructive, so that we have to rely on this false father figure and this false mother figure, the big brother idea, the idea of the man that controls everything. We have to rely on monopoly money, like you said. And then at the end of the day, none of that's benefiting us. It's just keeping us in a state of infantilized slavery. And that has everything to do with nutrition and how to provide our own nutrition, which is healthy.
Yeah, ever since I started focusing on my nutrition, it gave me a better foundation that I could build just my life upon, So yeah, nutrition. Yeah, honestly, nutrition and learning about the body and seeing the potential of what my body and mind could become and how strong I could become, that was a shifting point in my life, for sure. That was 4 years ago.
Exactly. They say the body is a temple and we are what we eat. Now, what's very interesting is it's like if you use the analogy of a house, who wants a house that says Pfizer there and Monsanto in the corner that's made up of chemicals and poison and poisonous paint that smells horrible, and I don't know, like some weird odors in the corner that has like no life whatsoever in it, and has brands everywhere instead of art, and has like corporate slave labor furniture in there. Nobody wants that kind of a house. Nobody wants to live there. Imagine a house that looks like a small version of a hospital, that's got brands everywhere on top of that and has chemical smells and everybody looks sick. Nobody wants that kind of a house. So why would you want that for your body? Why would we want slavery and torture? Nobody would want a slaughterhouse or a dairy farm for a house, right? You wouldn't want to live the way animals would. So why would you eat those? Why would you do that? It doesn't make sense.
Okay.
No,
Well,
go worship in those kind of temples, Sorry.
well, this is Spaceless Realms, the one and only Spaceless Realms. And
Indeed.
we're gonna close this space. This was kind of just like a brainstorming kind of session, talking about just different things. It's it's really interesting how like the root of everything is just survival. Like people just want to survive. People just want to feel good. People want what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can get to the basis of the roots of why humanity is humanity, like, bro, it's so deep. It's so intricate. But yeah,
And at
we'll
the end
say
of
that
the day, if we want to survive and feel good, why would we put chemicals and poisons in our body and destroy the future and the planet? So you want to
exactly.
survive and feel good, let's do it, but don't do it in an illusion. Don't mask the symptoms of the problem, deal with the root of it.
Yeah, it's like people know that they want to do better and people know what's better for them, but they just don't choose it. You know what I mean? They're
Yeah, but
just
they're forced because they're brainwashed by society, by advertising, by pharmaceutical, by addictions, by morphine in the milk and the cheese, which is a form of drug to keep us closer to the mother, but the mother is being stolen and raped and the child's being murdered. And
that's so
so
like
it's so intricate, messed up.
you're the first person who's told me that, and it totally makes sense. Like it's so true. Like it just keeps you more about like bonded in trauma. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then the mother that we're seeking when we look for those products is the corporations that are run by the world bankers. So we have these old, creepy, decrepit fucks that are running the world, and we're seeking them to get sustenance and life and happiness and security and comfort. Why would if you saw Pope Ratzinger or an old decrepit fucker that was like, "Hey, come here, I'll give you money," you'd be like, kill him, like get rid of that person, like let's just no, I'm not taking money or candy from you or food or anything, but that's what we do with society.
Hmm. Okay.
But if you
Well, I
see a beautiful goddess there, sorry, anyways, you see a beautiful goddess or you for somebody who's healthy, that's like, here, have some vegan organic food, have some fresh fruits, have some ital vegetables, you would be like, ah, that sounds wonderful, I love my neighbor. So look at where it comes from behind the veil. But yes, let's close the space, my apologies.
yeah, no man, no, it's exactly right. Like it's crazy to see like how much I shifted in just like a few years. Like I went from I went from a bacon eating, chicken eating bodybuilder to like an organic plant and just like I'm still shifting into that, you know what I mean?
No, but you're there. You're the 100% there, man. Like you're like we're both. Let's put it out there. We're both eating really healthy these days. I see you eating nothing but yams and oats and superfood protein, like vegan powders and like all this stuff. You're eating healthier than I am sometimes.
Yeah, bro, I'm fucking jacked. Yeah, man, if I die, at least I die jacked. So when they find my dead
Yeah.
body, it's like this jacked superhero, you know?
Oh, yeah. At the morgue, people will be like, "Damn, that's such a loss." And you're like 20 years old. So you got your whole life ahead of you.
Yeah, dude. Okay. I
And
bless
so
the
do I.
space. Here's to
Likewise.
infinite beginnings, infinite abundance, prosperity, growth, evolution. This is Spaceless Realms, closing the space.
Peace.